All right, welcome to Philosophy 101, provided by the St. Thomas More Trust in union with the Institute of Catholic Culture. This is a new initiative which you've probably heard about through the email newsletter, and this video is really to just break it down one-on-one, human to human, what this looks like, what is it for, and how does it work. So serious intellectual formation for people that live a real life. What we mean by real life is they might have a full-time job or you've got little kids running around, and this is really something that we intend that anyone can do. That it's really that small of a time commitment that provided you're intentional about where you're going to slot it in, everyone can really walk through this, participate, and get something out of it. So, the problem. Most people pick up the faith and all of these kinds of ideas the same way that we pick up everything else. You know, a podcast here, a book there, something from Bishop Barron, G.K. Chesterton, and it's good material, but this is a classic. It's consumed on the way to work and forgotten before lunch. And this is really that parallel between information and formation. So what we want to do by providing you a bit more of a formal structure within a course is to not overwhelm you, but also to do something that might stick a little bit more than the passive kind of media consumption that tends to be prevalent in our culture and way of life nowadays. So what formation actually is, you know, the reshaping of how you think, not just what you know. Habits and priorities changed by ideas encountered seriously, and that comes down to, you know, prioritizing this course and the time that you have. Something that takes time, repetition, and real engagement, not just passive consumption, but active engagement with material that's been prepared by a professor, readings that have been specifically selected, and then a group discussion. So it's a process that really should change you more at a deeper level, you know, not just the intellect. Without formation, and this is something that we sort of talked about initially, you know, especially in the culture nowadays, a lot of the problems that we encounter, whether they be ideological, political, moral, obviously the secular society that we'll live in now, there's a lot of moral standards within society, you know, whether it be around things of human sexuality, where it be around government overreach. You know, there's a lot of, I guess, factors within our modern culture that is very different from the culture that people lived in a couple hundred years ago. And of course, we're looking at ancient Greece, and that's even more different. But the idea of being able to learn some of the philosophy behind this, what are our morals? What are virtues? How does this look like at the level of society, of a community? These are all questions that Socrates and Plato, Aristotle, they all dialogued with people about. And I'm going to get into this a bit later in the presentation, but the purpose of this course is not for people to suddenly have all of these big reading commitments, but it's really about reading through those selected materials and engaging with those texts and other people in dialogue, because that is the best way to learn. And it's also the best way to actually apply these ideas to your life, to the present day, to the present society. That all happens through dialogue, not just reading in a room alone. And of course, this kind of formation is also something that you can pass on to other people, whether that be your family, your children, your future children, people at work. These are all things that kind of disseminate their way through our social interactions. And I was speaking there, as you can see on the right, relativism, identity, life issues. They're all deep philosophical ideas. It's not just I say this and you say that, red versus blue kind of thing. So what's the program? What does Phil 101 actually cover? How does it run? And what does it demand from you every week? So, as I mentioned just before, the core of this is Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato. I believe majority of the readings will be from Plato. So it's primary sources, not summaries. And there's basically selected specific readings. So it's not like you're reading the whole Republic. You'll be going through a number of Plato's dialogues. After each lecture, actually I'll get into this a bit later, but there's some surrounding work like quizzes and extra readings. There's a lecture every week from the doctor whose name will come up soon. But that's basically what we're covering. So those core ideas from Aristotle and Plato, what wisdom is, why we should pursue it, and again, teaching us how to ask those questions, not just the answers to the questions. So it's 1 to 2 lectures per week. This is video lectures from qualified professors, so you'll be able to either watch this on your laptop, download it as an MP3 and listen to it on the way to work. You've got the assigned readings from the primary sources, so these are the actual texts. Now, because a lot of these are very famous old works, majority of them are actually available as MP3s as well, or as audiobooks. So if you told us you literally didn't have a single spare second to sit down and read something, you technically could do this all just through your ears, while you're doing different activities. So you've got those assigned readings, you've got the weekly video lecture. At the bottom of the lecture page, which I will show you soon, you have a short comprehension test, which is a multi-choice quiz. And we'll also have a study guide provided from the St. Thomas More Trust that will help you engage with the material when you come to your monthly group sessions. I'll speak to that in a second. Weekly work is approximately only 2 to 3 hours, so very manageable. Even if you have to cram it into the weekend, Saturday or Sunday morning, it's probably well worth it. Well, I'll tell you now, it is well worth it. Now, within your cohort, you've heard that we've spoken about doing this in groups. We encourage you to have a group discussion week once a month. So this will be an in-person session with your group. As I said before, we've got discussion questions prepared for each session by the St. Thomas More Trust. So if you're all sitting there and you're sort of rubbing your fingers together, not really sure what to say, we have suggested questions around the topics that were covered that week, as well as what an answer to that question might look like. So you don't have to be running blind, or it all depends on the one guy that did do the work that week. But we're giving you as much help as you can to make this actually a fruitful and productive endeavor for you, not just something where you might be feeling left behind or that you don't understand it. We really want to support you as much as you can. So there's that framework for conversation. And because this is once every 4 weeks, you'll basically have 3 weeks of classwork, and then on the schedule that we've designed, you won't actually have to do a lecture on that 4th week. So that 4th week could be time that you use to recap what you've learned, and then obviously the time and place that the discussion happens. So you might want to meet for a meal and have that discussion with your group afterwards and during. Great way to share that kind of fellowship. You may have heard me reference the Inklings in one of the earlier promotional videos, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, The Eagle and Child, discussing philosophy, poetry, reading these works aloud. We really want that spirit of dialogue alive. So actual time commitment, 1 to 2 lectures per week, 2 to 3 hours per week. I don't know why it says full pathway there, but that's basically all you're looking at. So if you have a job, a family, a life, this is really designed so you can do it. Individual study weeks happen on your own schedule. The group sessions are fixed once a month, and the structure is done for you. We're adding that structure, that group, and that formation layer that makes this a bit more of something that you engage in, as opposed to just another course or another PDF that you sign up for online and you never get around to doing. We've already discussed this. As well. And yeah, I guess finally, what kind of person did we intend this to be built for? It's really any adult. Someone who's Catholic or seriously interested in developing their intellectual life. You might sense that something is missing from your formation. Maybe you're seeing some of these problems and things happening within the culture and you don't feel adequately formed enough to respond to this or to have the conversation with your colleague at work. So we really want to help channel that inquisitiveness, that curiosity into something that might help work that brain muscle, give you that formation, give you some of the political philosophy behind what is happening. And this isn't going to give you all the answers, but it's going to help you start. We hope to continue running this in the years to come. Maybe this will motivate you to pick up some other thinkers like Chesterton, maybe some more Plato, Aquinas. And it's basically a digestible way that you can engage with this in a real sense. Most people can't afford or just don't have the time and space, to fly to some prestigious university across the world. So this is something where instead of throwing up your hands in the air and saying there's nothing for me to do, here's something that you can do. You won't be getting, you're not going to be getting a degree out of this. We do want to get some sort of certificate to say that you've completed this course through St. Thomas More, but it's really about taking that formation approach that I talked about at the start of the call. And this is what we really want to do. We want to bring serious intellectual formation into something people in our community here in New Zealand can do. And Phil 101 is the perfect starting point. It's concrete, completable, and serious. We might run this again as a summer intensive. We might run the follow-up philosophy course next year. But really, this is something for you to, dip your toes in the water, This isn't going to overwhelm you. It's not anything crazy. You're not looking at epistemology or anything crazy. It's just Plato, the dialogues, and getting together with a group as you go through this over the next 6 months. And for the person that thinks that they may have missed the window, we have the famous example of St. Augustine of Hippo. He only started his intellectual and spiritual formation at 32 years old, and that was after throwing all of his adult years down the drain. And he went on to become one of the most influential saints and theologians ever to live. So this is just something that you can do to start working on yourself, and I highly recommend it. I myself am studying online, and while it can be a challenge, balancing that with family and full-time work, the fruit that you gain by committing to something, because this is different than just, reading a book from the bookshelf and getting a wee bit done here and then going 3 months without ever picking it up again. Within the commitment is really where you start to see that fruit. So from personal experience, I highly recommend this. So the next step is to leave your name and contact details in the form on stmtrust.org.nz. The link will be in the video description. That's to let us know that you're interested. If you've already got a group formed, great. Let us know in the box for that. If you want to be placed within a group, let us know, because we have a whole bunch of people who've already signed up, and we're going to place you based on your geography. So you'll be able to go and meet with this group in person once a month. We'll be in touch within 48 hours. It's the 28th of April now. We hope to be kicking off the course either next week or the week after. But basically, you'll know exactly what you're doing, you'll know exactly when you're starting, and you'll know what your group is. You'll see on the website, once you've registered, the step to actually go on the ICC website to access the course material itself. And I'll include a video tutorial to do that right after this.